From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. Following more wintry weather from storms this weekend in the Midwest and the Northeast, warmth will build and expand over the central and eastern U.S. next week. However, AccuWeather's long-range team continues to monitor the pent-up polar vortex, and there are signs of some changes coming in the middle of the month. First, the good news for warm weather and springtime fans. Now, for all of you folks who are waiting to get out on the golf course or the greenway, maybe outdoor for the pickleball courts, the upcoming pattern will bring plenty of opportunities. And with the resumption of daylight saving time this weekend, the extra hour of sunlight in the evenings will offer more time to get outside and enjoy it. After a couple of storms produce areas of snow into the weekend from parts of the north central states to the northeast, cold air will retreat northward, and warmer air over the south-central states will expand considerably. The warm-up will begin south of the snow areas beginning today throughout the weekend, factoring in some March sunshine in places winds don't kick up. The midday and afternoon hours could be delightfully warm over vast areas of the plains, the Mississippi Valley, and the east next week. Any breeze off chilly bays, lakes, or large rivers could negate some of that warmth. Along the northern tier, where deep snow remains, much of the sun's energy will be used to melt some of that snow cover rather than warming the air. Away from these chilly objects, temperatures will most likely soar to their highest levels since last autumn. Highs are forecast to be in the 50s and 60s much of next week in Chicago, with the same in store for Detroit during the early and middle part of the week. Following highs within a few degrees of 50 in New York City early next week, temperatures are projected to jump into the 60s later on. Even in New England, where spring is often delayed by weeks or even months due to the cold Atlantic to the south and east and the Great Lakes to the west, temperatures should reach the historical average and above most days. For example, highs in Boston will trend upward through the 40s from Sunday through Tuesday, and then temperatures should reach the 50s at midweek. The historical average high is in the mid-40s. The warmer weather will lead to thawing ice on lakes and ponds and could lead to some ice jams on some of the rivers over the northern tier. So, this warmer weather could bring some trouble, though. AccuWeather meteorologists are looking at 2 rounds of severe weather over the next 7 to 10 days for the southern and central states. One round will tend to be limited to a section of the Gulf Coast this weekend. Severe weather will bring some risk from hail, damaging wind gusts, and some flash flooding on Saturday from northeastern Texas to the Florida Panhandle, and maybe even southern Alabama. A couple of tornadoes cannot be ruled out either. Severe weather may continue to shift across the southeastern corner of the nation this weekend. As a large storm moves out from the Rockies later next week, a significant outbreak of severe weather could unfold across portions of the Great Plains and the Mississippi Valley. The same storm will likely bring snow on its colder northwestern flank, which could include areas from Minneapolis to near Denver. Gusty winds are likely throughout the storm's circulation. Where the landscape is dry, such as over the southern high plains, the risk of wildfires will again increase. And now, about that polar vortex. AccuWeather's long-range team of meteorologists, led by expert meteorologist Paul Pastelok, closely monitors the activity associated with the polar vortex year-round. Now, when the polar vortex remains strong, frigid air is usually locked up near the Arctic Circle. When the polar vortex weakens or it becomes distorted, it can send frigid air southward into the United States. Pastelok said there has been some slight stretching of the polar vortex this winter, as evidenced by some of the Arctic outbreaks, but the polar storm located in the upper part of the atmosphere has remained largely intact this winter into this week. There are strong signals that the polar vortex may weaken to the point where one or more major southward discharges of cold air can occur in North America and Europe starting around the middle of the month. The magnitude, direction, and extent of the cold waves may not be determined until the polar vortex breakdown actually occurs. That's all for now. You can find more stories and regional forecasts at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.